class is in session.
IDEX Gaming with episode 1 of Goblinomics. This is a video series that I wanted to make alongside our gold guides since the beginning. My vision was to make videos that educate as well as entertain. And basically, what I promised in video 1 is finally coming to fruition. Today I want to teach you one of the tools that I and other goblins use in order to figure out the proc rates of different items. Now, my main goal is to keep the interest of all you aspiring goblins, so I won't be going too deep into the nitty gritty of the math. However, do let me know if this video is too surface level. This video is great for those who maybe haven't learned this type of math before, or people who want to learn how I apply this to WoW. I will provide a couple timestamps now and in the description to help you skip around to the parts of the video that are relevant to you. But it's very important you stick around towards the end of the video because I am going to cover a couple warnings that are very important when you're thinking about investing a lot of gold into predictions based on math. So let's start from the basics. In modern World of Warcraft, there are many instances where RNG can be the difference between having a profitable venture or losing a ton of gold. What if I told you it's possible to figure out the profitability of a scheme you're building even when there's significant RNG? In order to figure this out, we have to enter the world of statistics and visit the land of probability. First, let's imagine a perfectly balanced coin, like this Bitcoin. Now we can assume that because this coin has two sides and it's perfectly balanced, the chances of landing on either side if I were to flip this coin are equal. But let's set up an experiment to see if that holds true, and let's keep track of the results. So let's flip this coin 4 times. Bing, bing, bing. So after counting up the results, we see that it only landed on heads once. But we know that it's a 50-50 chance to land on either side. So if this was a proc in WoW, and we didn't know what the chances of it landing on heads were, now we have bad information. And if we try to build a gold guide off that, we're going to have wildly different results, making it basically unpredictable and making investment super risky. We don't want that. This result happens because anytime you're testing something for the chances or the probability, each individual action counts at its own 50-50% chance. This is a great time to introduce 2 important principles of statistics. First, being the law of large numbers, and 2, the gambler's fallacy. Now, I'm going to go over the gambler's fallacy in the warning section of this video, because once you understand the law of large numbers, then you'll better understand why people fall for the gambler's fallacy. The law of large numbers. This is the key to understanding how we figure out proc rates. All this law states is that when you're doing an experiment or counting something or observing something like the proc rate of an item in WoW, the more tests you conduct, the closer you're going to get to its actual true average chance. That may be a little confusing, so let's start with an easy example first. So let's go back to the experiment that we set up together. Here we see that the chances of landing on heads is 25%. We know that it's wrong, but that's our calculation so far. So now let's flip this coin 50 times. Let's tally it all up, count it up. And now we see that our average is actually getting closer. But let's say we did it 500 more times. Now we're starting to get really close to its true average. And in this case, we know the true average because we know it's a balanced, fair coin that has 2 sides. So what if we flipped it 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100,000 times? We just get closer and closer to 50%. When it comes to trying to figure out how many coin flips you need, it's a matter of how good are the chances. On a 2-sided coin, because it's 50-50, you actually don't need to flip that many to understand that the proc rate is roughly 50%. However, if let's say you're trying to figure out the drop chances of Ashes of Alar, because the chances are so small, you would actually need to run that dungeon hundreds of thousands of times. So basically, the amount of trials you need to do to get an accurate number is determined simply by the odds of actually getting the outcome that you're measuring for. But in all reality, you don't need to worry about that all that much. I'm going to show you how I figured out the proc rates of Exposum, the proc rates of blue crafts, and the proc rates of items that you get from disenchanting the blues. But since I need more enchanting mats and more Exposum, let's figure out the proc rates from scratch. First, let's figure out what is the proc rate of the bracers upgrading to blue quality. So here we are next to a mailbox where I always go when I'm going to start crafting some bracers. And let's see how many mats I have. Alright, I'm at 1,155. Now, the way I like to track this is I actually count up how many bracers proc blue at the end of this. So let's go ahead and craft these bracers. Now we do the exciting and thrilling process of going mentally AFK. So now we crafted all the bracers, sent it off to our alt, brought them back, opened all the crates. So we have my inventory is totally full, and we even got into the bank a little bit. So I counted these all up. There are 179 bracers out of 1,155 crafts. Let's pop open the calculator. So the way that we're going to figure this out is we're going to divide this by 1,155. We're going to multiply this by 100. And in our sample set, we got a 15.5% chance to proc blue. Now this number is different from our spreadsheet because I used 5,000 crafts for my spreadsheet, and then on top of that, Want to Buy Gold actually posted a nice video or a nice blog post a while back where he did the math himself, and he got around 16.8%. My numbers are 16.6%, but 0.2% isn't going to really affect your profits all that much, especially since you have to expect some variance. Now that we figured out the chances of an item upgrading to blue quality, the next thing we're going to figure out is how much is it worth to disenchant. So all we're going to do is disenchant all these items. Now I have an add-on called Easy Disenchant that basically it allows me to disenchant directly from the crafting menu. So I just click right here and I click disenchant, and it goes ahead and disenchants everything. So now I could go semi-AFK, watching YouTube, Netflix, something else. But basically I just have to disenchant all the items. Alright, so now we're done disenchanting everything. We whip out our trusty calculator. And now let's do the math again. 274 gloom dust divided by the 179 bracers. Now we have a 1.5 gloom dust per bracer disenchanted. Now let's do 251 divided by the 179 for the blue bracers that we disenchanted. We're at 1.4. So it's perfect. This is what we can expect. We put that into a spreadsheet and we can start to get a gander at how proc rates work and how do disenchant values come into play when you're trying to understand how much money your investment in tight spray linen, for this example, and the nylon thread will come out to, and how much is it actually worth to disenchant, how much is it worth to scrap. So now we have an idea of what are the mats we're going to get per disenchant. So the last one that we're going to cover is, let's look at the explosive rates. So now we're back on my warlock after disenchanting the items, and we're sitting by the mailbox that's really close to the scrapper, and we're gonna just go ahead and scrap all the bracers that we made. So now that I finished scrapping all the bracers, we can see that I ended up with 159 explosive. The next step is figuring out how many bracers I actually scrapped. So first thing we're gonna do is take the total number of crafts, subtract that by the number of bracers that proc blue, and we end up with 976 green bracers, which is the ones that I scrapped. We're going to take the total number of explosive, divide that by the total number of green bracers, and we end up with about a 16% chance to get explosive from any particular craft. So that concludes our experiment. Now, without knowing any of the back-end code of World of Warcraft, we have figured out the approximate proc chance for an item to upgrade to blue in quality, the approximate chance of getting explosive from scrapping a green item, and then on top of that, we also figured out how many materials we can expect to receive from disenchanting a blue quality item. However, there's a very stern warning I have to give. When it comes to investing money in something that involves RNG, there's something you need to be aware of, and that is the gambler's fallacy. The gambler's fallacy simply states that the odds of something happening is not affected by historical results. All this means is just because something didn't happen before doesn't mean it's more likely to happen in the future. A quick example of this fallacy would be thinking that because you didn't get 10 bracers to proc blue in a row, guaranteed proc. So the reason I'm taking this part of the video slightly more seriously when it comes to the gambler's fallacy is because even though you're aware of it, sometimes the illogical mind can start to make you make bad decisions because you're aware of the law of large numbers. Knowledge of the law of large numbers is a double-edged sword. It allows you to predict the probability of something happen, but it also leaves you vulnerable to the gambler's fallacy. I hope this video gave you all the tools you need in order to figure out if an idea you have is profitable or not, even when it involves RNG. I want to take a moment and ask you guys, do you think this video was too surface level? Everything that's useful for figuring out a gold guide, you now have. However, if you want to figure out if you're lucky or not, that requires another step in statistics, which is understanding the normal curve and standard deviation. Like I said earlier, that level of complexity is where I live. So I would be happy to provide you with those tools as well. But it's up to you guys. So just let me know in the comments if you want me to go that much deeper, or if you think that you just want the useful stuff. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Me and Easy Peasy really appreciate it. And with that, the first class of Goblinomics is over. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, hit that like button. If you didn't like it, hit that dislike button. Feel free to sound off in the comments to give me any advice on what was helpful, what wasn't. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.